Now that we know how to create a new project, we need to know how to place a photo within this project. The easiest way to do it is by going to your Finder or your documents and literally just clicking and dragging your photo into the project. So what I can do is just click and drag this profile pic, which you can use in the stock photos folder that is you downloaded earlier in the course. And what happens is it drops it into this project, and it has this bounding box on the right and left side. It's kind of in limbo right now. It's waiting for you to move it around or place it. We're going to go over more of the tools in the next lesson, but the main tool you're going to be using right now is just your select tool, which allows you to click and move your images. So I can literally just click, move this around, and you'll notice that when I move it around to certain parts of my project, these pinkish purple lines pop up. These are guides that help me know if my image is aligned with the project. If it's got this pink line in the middle going vertically, that means that the graphic or the photo that I have selected and I'm moving around is in the vertical center of my project. And same if there's this horizontal pink line that pops up right there, that means that I'm in the horizontal center. So if I want this project perfectly centered, this is where I would let it go. And then when I'm happy with the position, I can press the return key on my keyboard. So now this image is in my project, and I can then go back and add other images. Say I have a graphic, so I have this subscribe button. I wouldn't really do this in a project with this guy with the beard's face, but if I want to drop another graphic or image, I can then just drop another graphic. Now to resize this, I can just click the edge, any of these little blocks on the edge of this bounding box, and drag in or out. You'll notice that if I drag in or out though, the aspect, the ratio of the width to height gets really funky. It starts to get really squished vertically or horizontally. To make sure that I'm not squishing it and it maintains the same aspect that I imported it at, I can just hold the shift key. If I'm holding the shift key while I click and drag, it locks it to that aspect ratio. Another thing you can do is hold the Option and Shift keys down if you're on a Mac, or the Alt and Shift keys if you're on a PC. And what that does is it resizes it from the very center of this graphic. So without the Option or Alt key selected, it resizes it just from the corner that you selected, or really the opposite corner that you selected it from. With the Option or Alt, it resizes it from the center. And then when I press the return key on my keyboard, it places it. I can also go back to this image, and you see all these layers popping up in our layer panel now. We have our photo and then our subscribe button. And I could choose this profile image and then resize this one to fill this entire screen. So I'm going to choose the corner. I'm going to hold Shift so it doesn't get a weird aspect. And I'm also going to hold Option on my Mac to increase the size from the very center of this image. And then I can click and move it around. So this guy's face isn't directly in the perfect center, so I'm not going to have it perfectly centered in the image where these pink lines pop up as guides. I'm going to move it over to the right a little bit. Now to get rid of any layer, I can just select it by clicking it in the composition itself or in the project, or select the layer over here on the right side and either press delete on your keyboard or click this trash button here on the right. And it's going to ask you delete the layer, and I'm going to choose yes. Photoshop will open up photos in different ways though, depending on what type of project it is. Here I have this remove background PSD file. This is already a Photoshop file. And if I simply double click this, it will open up this Photoshop project and I can just start editing it. If I do that with another type of image, say I have a JPEG image, on a Mac, it's not going to open up in Photoshop. It's going to open up in Preview. And on a Windows, it will open up in the default photo viewer on a Windows computer. I'm going to close that out. To open up this Fireworks photo or any JPEG photo right within Photoshop, I can just right click and choose Adobe Photoshop CC or whatever version you have. And then the last thing is, if you are shooting with a professional camera that shoots raw images, which are full quality images that aren't compressed, for me, I have a Canon camera and these are CR2 files, or if you're using a Nikon, they're NEF files. Depending on the camera, they output as different types of raw files. Here I have a landscape photo that I shot in Switzerland. If I double click this CR2 file, it will open it up in Photoshop, but it opens up in an editor window. And we're going to go over all of these editing options in a future lesson in the photo editing and Photoshop section of this course. But if you do want to open this image right into a normal Photoshop project, instead of doing any edits in this panel, we can just click this Open Image button. And that's going to open up that raw image into a Photoshop project. And with any of those types of images, the landscape, the fireworks, or the Photoshop, we actually can just drag it into this project that we've created and then resize it and place the images however you want. So say we are creating a bunch of profile pictures and I want to just place a bunch of different types of images. I'm just going to open up all these images, resize them, put them in the middle of our project. And of course, I would edit these photos just to make sure that the colors look good. But we can go through and actually work on multiple photos in one project. So ideally, you would always have your profile image editing project, and you can just reopen that project and add your new photo that you want to work on into that same project. I hope this is clear to you. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just see you in another lesson.